This video is about the hypocrisy of the United States of America. No one can go to the US and tell them which laws to pass and which laws not to pass. No one interferes with them because we understand that they are a sovereign nation. But the US just finds ways, man, to interfere itself in other countries' affairs.
This issue of homosexuality is a very serious issue because it is an issue of the human race.
Human rights are universal. No one should be attacked, imprisoned, or killed simply because of who they are or whom they love.
And these arguments that they bring about bills relating to LGBTQ, they'll never say them to the Arabs. They'll never go to Kuwait. They'll never go to Bahrain. They'll never go to Brunei. They'll never go to Saudi Arabia. They'll never go to Indonesia to tell them. It is Africans who they think are tails to be wagged. So on this issue, the government of the Uganda and the people of Uganda, I am with them 100%. There is no freedom outside of the law.
What up, Sambunani? I hope you guys are okay. The United States of America has done it again. You know, they've done what they usually do. They're meddling in the affairs of a tiny African nation. As we all know by now, they've placed sanctions on tiny Uganda because they're not willing to accept the United States agenda of promoting LGBTQ+. You know, it's a mouthful. But because they're not willing to accept America's gay agenda on the continent, the USA have placed sanctions on Uganda. They say it's a human rights issue. They are claiming that Uganda is violating human rights because of the bill that they've just passed and which President Museveni has signed into law. Look, this video is not about the fairness of the bill or the unfairness of the bill. This video is about the hypocrisy of the United States of America. No one can go to the US and tell them which laws to pass and which laws not to pass. No one interferes with them because we understand that they are a sovereign nation. But the US just finds ways, man, to interfere itself in other countries' affairs. They're claiming that it's a human rights violations, the bill that was just passed. According to President Museveni, it's not an offense to be homosexual in and of itself. If you are found to be recruiting other people to be homosexuals, you'll be arrested. It's punishable by jail time. And if you engage in sexual relations, homosexual sexual relations, you know, I think I'll play the video so that you guys can understand for yourself. But if you engage in those relations, it's punishable by death. Something along those lines. I'll play it so that I do not misquote him.
The three positions. Number one, merely being suspected of being is not an offense in itself. You are a person to be helped if you want helped. Because it was said that some of the people can be helped to get back to normal. But secondly, if you want now to disorient others, we go for you, we punish you by imprisonment. If you go beyond that and you start raping children and so on, we kill you.
Yes, sir.
And the United States have duly responded. They said this is a human rights violation by Uganda.
We have grave concerns with the passage of the Anti-Homosexuality Act, AHA, by the Parliament of Uganda yesterday, and increasing violence targeting LGBTQI+ persons. If the AHA is signed into law and enacted, it would impinge upon universal human rights, jeopardize progress in the fight against HIV/AIDS, deter tourism and invest in Uganda, and damage Uganda's international reputation. The bill is one of the most extreme anti-LGBTQI+ laws in the world. Human rights are universal. No one should be attacked, imprisoned, or killed simply because of who they are or whom they love.
This is the Parliament passing it. It still has some process to go here. We're certainly watching this real closely, and we would have to take a look at whether or not there might be repercussions that we would have to take, perhaps in an economic way, should this law actually get passed and enacted. And that would be really unfortunate, because so much of the economic assistance that we provide Uganda is health assistance, and largely through PEPFAR. You can see a world in which, a law like this, should it be enacted, would not only, as Karine rightly said, just be devastating to a whole community of people inside Uganda, but if it were to have any kind of an effect on our economic assistance, that would only make that worse. So we'll have to take a look.
Now, this begs the question. Is it a human rights violation only in the African continent? Is it a human rights violation only in black African countries? Because the same rules apply, right? Homosexuality is punishable. Maximum penalty in Arab nations is death. The maximum penalty for homosexual relations in Arab-speaking nations, in the Arabic nations, is death. Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, amongst others, they do not accept homosexuality to be a part of their culture. But because money is involved, right, the United States of America is trading with those countries, billions and billions, if not trillions of dollars. Because money is involved, they turn a blind eye to human rights where those countries are concerned. If this was a human rights violation, or if this was a human rights issue, they would sanction Saudi Arabia as well. They would sanction the OPEC nations, because most of the OPEC nations, the oil nations, are against homosexuality, right? It's illegal in those countries as well, and the maximum penalty is death in most of those countries. But because it's tiny Uganda, they're placing sanctions on Uganda, which I think is unfair, which I think is really unfair. If Uganda is a sovereign state, they have the right to determine for themselves what is right or wrong for them. They don't need the interference of the Americans. The Americans have interfered a lot in African affairs, and I think it's time that African leaders rise up. They need to rise and support Uganda, not because of the bill they've passed, not because they're against homosexuals, but they need to support Uganda in standing up against the hypocrisy of the United States, to be specific. Because if this was a human rights violations, they would suspend Saudi Arabia. They would sanction Saudi Arabia. They would sanction the United Arab Emirates. They would sanction Qatar. They would sanction those Arab nations. Is it too much to ask for African nations, for them to ask the United States of America to respect their way of living? They need to respect our way of living as Africans. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think it's hypocritical of the United States to sanction Uganda, or are they correct in sanctioning them? Thank you for joining me. Cheers. God willing, I will see you on the next one.